Hello everyone, welcome to today's video. So today I'm going to be making a cinnamon soap as a special request. So this is going to be kind of fun. I've already mixed up some mica. It's kind of got a sparkly color to it, kind of pretty. So we're going to add mica. It's got a little bit of olive oil in it, which makes it pour out a little bit smoother. And this is what I'm going to be coloring up my soap. Hopefully we'll get a swirl with it. We'll see. So I've already got my lye water completely cooled off. One of the things about lye and water is you want to make sure that you add your lye to your water, not the other way around, because this can explode on you and you don't want that. Lye water will melt your skin and it does burn, and lye burns really suck, so make sure you have safety precautions at all times. Now, one of the things about the water is only designed to melt your lye, and fortunately some of the things with milk, especially farm fresh goat's milk like I've got here, which I'm super glad I have had donated by one of my dearest friends. One thing with soap is you have to ice your milk usually, because that lye will tend to get really hot and scorch and burn your milk, and sometimes it will curdle it. Trust me guys, it smells nasty. You don't want to have curdled milk in your soap. So I've split my water weight, and I've got my water enough to melt my lye, and then I kept my liquid goat's milk, which I'll add later. That way I can keep my milk as a liquid and it won't burn or scorch. So my lye water has already cooled off, and that looks really good to me. I'm going to very carefully pour it over a spoon so it doesn't splash into my solid coconut oil. I did not melt my coconut oil because then I have to make sure I keep everything at a similar temperature. You have to wait for your oils to cool off and your lye water to cool off. And if you don't do that, you can volcano your soap. So unless you want to have soap going up and out and everywhere, you want to make sure everything's going to be at least the same temperature. But here I've just added my hot lye water to my oils. It's enough that it will melt my solid oils, but it won't be so much that it volcanoes. And I will stick this in the fridge, and that definitely helps as well. Now when you do add essential oils to your soap, one of the things that likes to happen is you'll get a rising or a false trace. I try to avoid that. So before I stick blend, I am going to go ahead and add my fragrance oils to my batch. That way hopefully I can avoid some problems that does tend to happen along the way. And so far my coconut oil is about completely dissolved and melted. I'm kind of happy with how that's looking so far. I'm going to go ahead and add my farm fresh goat's milk, and I'm going to stir that in by hand. I don't like to over trace my soap because, again, coconut oil is a very solid oil. It's got lauric acid and other things in it that give it those properties. So within a few hours I can actually unmold this soap, because that's just one of the properties of coconut oil. And I've already got all my ingredients, or most of my ingredients, mixed in. I'm going to go ahead and just add my cinnamon essential oil to it, stirred in by hand. I don't need a whole lot. It's a few drops. I'm having a really hard time having this come out of there. Just give me a second, guys. Okay, so I have forgotten how much harder it is to apply the essential oils to my soap oils because of that dropper. So I had to have a moment to try and fix that best I can. And I don't know if you can tell, but I have got a little bit of that oil and lye water separation. You can kind of see how it looks speckled on my spatula. That's one of the things that's going to be a precursor for ricing in your soap. And we want to have all of those molecules completely blended together so they don't separate. So I'm going to go ahead, take my stick blender, and then I'm going to go ahead and burp my blender just to get all the air bubbles and stuff out of there. Going to do a quick burst. And this has already gotten so thick, so fast. I'm really going to have to move very quickly. So I'm going to go ahead, pour a little bit of my batch into a separate container. I'm going to go ahead, add my mica color, because I want to try and get this to swirl. And get a very red cinnamon swirl if I can. It's like, work fast, come on. Come on, let's do it. Let's save the soap batch, dang it. Let's save the soap. Okay, I'm happy with that color. And if I'm not happy, I'm going to pretend to be happy anyway. Alright, set everything aside. Gonna do an in the pot swirl. Drop from really high to really low. And that gets the colors on the bottom as well as on the top. I'm going to go ahead and start pouring this into my soap mold. Hopefully we can get some good colors. We'll find out. And this is just going to be a mess. We'll see what happens. Just messy soap everywhere. Oh, I hate it when it thickens up like that. You know, if this tends to happen to you guys, and you never know with using essential oils and soap, just, you know, things happen. With essential oils, you can either over trace your soap easy and it seizes up, so then you have one big lump of soap, or you can have your soap thin out and become an even thinner trace. There's just a lot of things that can happen with using essential oils, and you'll never know. It does different stuff in different recipes, different batches, so if you prepare and just go with a thin to light trace, or a light trace or an emulsion or whatever, then you have an easier time to compensate for those changes. So I'm going to go ahead and get this cleaned up, make sure everything gets leveled out. You can use a scraper tool if you need it to. That kind of helps to straighten your batches out and make them flat on the back. I like using my molds because with coconut oil, since it gets so solid so fast, and I'm kind of a ditz and I forget stuff, I found just doing molds like I've got here really helps make the individual soap bars, because then I'm not having to worry about cutting my soap, and then if I wait too long it won't be a huge soap brick and I won't be able to cut it and then not really be able to use it either. So I like using molds for that reason. So okay, I'm going to go ahead and finish cleaning this up, and then I'll stick that in my fridge, and then we'll be back in a few hours or whenever I get to it to unmold these. So we'll be back in a little bit. I poured these soaps 2 days ago. So these have been sitting in the molds way the heck too long. Normally, if I were to make like a loaf mold, I'd have to unmold these and then cut them within 4 hours of pouring them, because they do get solid very, very quickly. And if I didn't cut them right away, then I'd end out with a soap brick instead of a soap bar, and it'd crumble, and it's just nasty. You don't want to have to deal with that. So I like using my individual bar molds for reasons just like this, because you never know. Something could happen, you have to take care of that, and then your soap has to sit, and it'd be a while before you can get back to it. So because of that reason, I like using my individual molds. So this turned out really nice. I've got just a very little bit of swirling in there. Not quite as dark of a red as I was hoping I was going to get, but it's chemistry. You never know. Things could happen. Things change. That turned out really kind of cool. That's actually kind of looks like it's got a splash of a flower. I hope you guys can maybe see that. This cinnamon does. It smells so great, guys. So if you are actually interested in purchasing any one of these soap bars, you can go to my Facebook page, Basic Homesteading and Survival, and purchase these soaps. I do ship, and so if you live within the lower 48, then you can actually purchase these on that page if you would like to. But again, this was a special request. A friend of mine wanted to see if I could make them a few bars, so I figure, hey, I'll just make a whole batch and see what happens. Oh, that's really cool how it does some of that swirling. It's really fascinating. I like using an in the pot swirl for those reasons. Now this has got some thick edges there, so I like having my knife handy so then I could just very carefully go around the edge, kind of trim those spots off. You can see how it's wanting to just crumble instead of cut, even on very, very thin areas like that. Got a little bit of a rough edge there now because of that, but oh well, life happens. At least the bar looks great. And that's what we are after. Okay, so I'm going to finish unmolding all of these bars. And I hope you guys like this video. If you do, you can come back for more tips and tricks later on. But you guys have a great one, and I'll see you later. Bye now.